Okay, so now what we're going to look at is how we can get this static FBX mesh that we have created and get that into Unreal. So we could go import and navigate to where it is here, or you can just simply drag and drop it into Unreal. Now, once you do that, there's a few things that we want to have a look at here. The main ones being the import scale. So even though this chest looks quite large here inside of Maya, this is using centimeters, and Unreal uses meters. Now you can convert the scene here, as it says there, from FBX unit to UE3 unit, but I also then find you should also then change it from a scale of 1 up to about 10. To try that, 10 or 20, it really depends on how big you've made your mesh, but if you don't do that, when you bring it into the level, it's going to be really, really small and hard to work with. So with those two settings done, I can just go import. It's given a few errors here. That is normal for this and everything. It's really just talking about FBXs and smoothing groups, which is just a way that FBXs tend to convert meshes. So as you can see, we've got a few things here. First of all, we have the static mesh itself, which is when you double click on it, you open it on this screen here. Seems to have come through all right. Then we also have the material, when you double click on it, you get this window here, which we can see it's got its normal map, it has the specular map or the metallic map, and then you've also got this map here and everything. But we're missing our roughness map. So now that we've imported it, we've got a few things that we can do. If you are missing some of those maps, all you have to do is simply go back into your source images and find that roughness map. So if we go down to, I had a number of roughness maps, so we'll go with this one, and I can just bring it down. You need to make sure it's a PNG in order to bring it into Unreal, or most versions of Unreal. So if you have a TIFF file from textures.com, make sure you convert it to a PNG. And then I'm just going to simply, with this sort of view here, you can hold down the right mouse button to move around, mouse wheel up and down, and left click to drag to move things in. You can also drag things in here like so, and then plug this RGB up to roughness. So this is the material, and these are the textures. So as you can see, that has just applied this roughness map to it. Also notice this is pumped into specular, which in Maya is the closest thing where the Fong E has to metallic. So what we're going to actually do here, because it is meant to be a metallic map, it's going to actually plug it into there. And I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and click here to disconnect it from there. And that's just going to give our chest a much more metallic look to it. So with that done, I'm going to close here. I've saved that now, and as you can see, the chest now has a much bigger metallic. Now I'm not quite happy with that size, so I can still change it and move it up like so. And then I can go into the level and have a look at it. So as you can see, the light is reflecting off of there. If I wanted to change any of those values, if I looked at those values and thought, oh, they're actually a bit high, that's looking a little bit too shiny, then a simple thing you can do is bring in a multiply, which you just right click on here and search. I'm just going to go multiply, and if I plug this into here and then into there on metallic, because it's quite shiny here, if I change that from a constant of 1 down to something like 0.5, you can see it's getting a little bit less shiny. So it just allows me to control, I guess, the variance on that. If I save that now, you can see it will actually change it on the object itself as well. So you can do that for all things. Even if you wanted to make them, say, more shinier, you could do the opposite. You could crank this right up to, say, 2. And then, yeah, we save that again. Gets it even darker sort of reflection and everything. So it's all just about messing around with those different values there, which is really nice. So I'm going to put that down to 0.2. And yep, that's plenty shiny enough, I think. Cool. And so now, one more thing we're going to check is in here, if we double click on this again, you might also want to check the collisions. So Unreal does a good job of trying to, calculate what the collisions are, but they may not always do a good job. This is what's known as the simple collision, has very few faces, as you can see from this green outline, but you also have complex collision, and that is more of a, it wraps around the mesh exactly, but that means it gets everything, even these ring outlets here. The reason this is important is not just for colliding with the character, but also for calculating physics. So, for example, if I go to this one here, I can see that when my player goes into it, it collides with it just so. Now, if I were to change that and put that down in here, and when we come to collisions, so we scroll down here to collisions, and instead of going with project default, we're going to go to use complex collision as simple. I'm going to go save, and now when my character walks up to it, you will see they can get much closer, and they end up going over the top of it as well there a bit. So, and that's the thing about collisions. Yes, you might want to keep it really nice and tight, but you also have to understand that's going to cause all kinds of fun glitches as well, especially if we click here on simulate physics. What simulate physics does is it applies a physics to it that basically decides how it should act. Now it doesn't seem to be doing it here, so I'm actually going to change that back to project default. So save, and I'm actually going to exit out there and then play. Yep, there we go. And see, as you can see, because it has a few less faces, it behaves a little bit better and everything. So you're going to have to decide whether you want to have this for your storage container. You may not want to have it. And this is where looking up Newton's 3 laws of physics become important, because this is Newtonian sort of physics, meaning that if I don't want that to move as much, I can actually increase the mass. So if I increase this to say 1000, now when I collide with it, it's harder to actually push. But if I take a run up, I can normally get it to move further because it does respond to velocity. So it's just something to consider there when you're pulling in this mesh. In the next video, we're going to look at how we can change certain parameters just using blueprints. So we're going to have it, when you walk up to it, you can then press a button and make it disappear to simulate it being a loot crate. So we'll see you in that next video.